I ate one extra lychee in the palace, and the emperor had my legs broken and my family exiled to Yungu Tower. I knelt in the snow, begging, but he called me stubborn and waved his hand, ordering me thrown out. The next day I died from blood loss. It wasn't until 3 years later that the emperor finally remembered me, the useless Marquis. He personally led troops to the border, surrounded my father, and forced me to return to the palace. But what I didn't expect was that he only wanted me for my beloved daughter, to use her as medicine. My dad took his beloved concubine to my shrine and told her I was dead. She just gave a silly laugh, looking annoyed.
I told her to stop playing these boring games with me. Back then I only broke her limbs. Did she think she could avoid me forever? I told her not to be so selfish. I only needed a bit of her blood, not her life.
A group of well-dressed men stood in the biting cold, out of place among the desolate surroundings. He wore a stubborn expression as he lit up the decaying courtyard. He snorted coldly. "Where's Suwan? Tell her to come out." The courtyard gate creaked open, and my father staggered out, lifting his eyes to look at Song Huaichuan.
Your Majesty, sorry for the rush, but my Wan passed away 3 years ago.
Song Huaichuan stared at her with utter disgust, and couldn't help but sneer.
A woman that vain and greedy wouldn't die so easily. She likely knew my Yueher's life was at risk, and her heart's blood was needed as medicine, so she hid on purpose to kill Yueher. Please bring her back to the palace.
He gazed slowly around, his eyes becoming colder by the second.
Suwanjin, we shall see just how much longer you can keep yourself hidden.
Saying that, he pushed past the old man blocking his way and stormed into the small, shabby room. He started ripping through everything, tossing things around wildly. Even the plaques with my and Mom's names were thrown aside without a second thought. Dad's eyes went bloodshot as he lunged to protect the plaques, but someone pinned him down. He could only cry out in despair, helpless.
Wan is dead. Your Majesty, please don't disturb her peace. Father's words enraged Song Huaichuan.
He spun around quickly and brought his foot down hard on his face.
I only ordered his limbs injured. How could he die? Betraying the emperor is a capital offense. I advise you to hand him over, or don't blame me for ignoring past ties.
I clutched my chest, knowing he wasn't wrong. Originally, he only ordered my hands and feet to be badly injured, just to send me out of the palace. It wasn't supposed to be a death sentence. But he seemed to forget that that night I was poisoned and beaten badly. By the time they dragged me out the palace gates, I was barely hanging on. He stood on the palace wall, ignoring my desperate pleas as they threw me into a red courtyard. Tortured all night, I died in shame. Seeing my father silent, Song Huaichuan drew his sword and held it to his neck.
Don't think that just because you're guarding the border for me, I won't make a move. Yueher is my everything. For the sake of past favors, I'll give you 5 more days. If Suwan doesn't come out after that, I'll have your whole family buried with Yueher.
Song Huaichuan looked disgusted and raised his hand, stabbing my dad's shoulder with his sword. He left with his guards without looking back. Watching his determined figure walk away, I couldn't help but stand up. If it weren't for my father and brothers fighting to protect me back then, there's no way he would have made it to the throne. Now he's threatening my entire family just to force me to show myself. I wish I could appear in front of him right now, but sadly, I'm already dead. My father, trembling, pulled out his sword, pressed it against his wound, then fell to his knees, burying his face in the muddy ground as he cried out in pain. I wanted to help him up and wipe the tears from his face, but my fingers were... But it just passed straight through his body and vanished into thin air. I could only slump down beside him, kneeling and crying with him. My dad got up, clutched the tablets with our names, wiped them clean, and held them close. A bitter smile flickered. "Wait for me. I'll be with you soon." After a cough, he spat out blood. Seeing the sadness in his eyes, I knew he didn't want to just barely get by anymore. Half a year ago, my dad got seriously sick. The only reason he's held on this long is to protect this small border town. Mom and I are buried here, and he's afraid if the town falls, we won't even have a place to rest. I'm sure he regrets it just as much as I do, regretting every moment he gave his all, fighting through the bloody chaos to clear a path for Song Huaichuan's rapid rise. 5 days later, Song Huaichuan showed up again with his men, surrounding this little countryside courtyard. But this time, he wasn't alone. His beloved concubine Qingyue was by his side. Seeing only my dad standing there, Song Huaichuan furrowed his brows, his eyes filled with a strange and intense hunger.
Honestly, I never really thought Suwan could be so incredibly cold-hearted. She'd rather watch you die than let me take her heart's blood to save Yueher. You better realize the kind of person you're protecting. Bring her to me, and I'll let your family return to the capital. If not for her talk of a lifetime together and causing Yueher's miscarriage, I wouldn't have been so harsh.
Pityingly, he said, "If she gives Yueher her heart's blood, I might make her empress again." I couldn't help but start laughing, silently to myself. Does he really think I'd still care about some so-called guardian by now? Even if I did, I'd be dead already, just bones by now. There's no way I could bleed out to save his beloved concubine. My dad ignored his threats and bribes, just shaking his head with a numb expression.
I already told you, Wana died 3 years ago. No matter what it is you do, she will not be able to save you.
The woman nearby heard father's words, and Song Huaichuan's face fell. His eyes turned cold, as if staring at a corpse.
My beloved consort, you can insult me all you want. But since you don't know your place, I'll teach you a lesson.
At Song Huaichuan's command, the guards beside him immediately brought over a bow and arrows.
Your heir, since that old man dares to humiliate you in public, I'll personally teach him his place.
He sneered as he took the bow, a hint of mockery on his lips. Hoyazi was furious, crying and lunging forward, trying to snatch the bow from Song Huaichuan's hands. But I couldn't even reach him. My desperate cries were carried away by the cold wind, and all I could do was lie helplessly on the ground. I just stood there, watching as a cold arrow shot straight from Song Huaichuan's hand, heading right for my dad. The arrow hit his eye, and blood instantly gushed out, dripping to the ground. My dad's shoulder trembled uncontrollably in pain, but he showed no fear. With his last venomous eye, he glared fiercely at Song Huaichuan. Song Huaichuan lost all patience, dropped his bow, and had someone drag my dad in front of him. Then he stepped on my dad's chest as if crushing an ant.
Suwon, do you really think that just because she's hiding, I'm powerless against all of you? If she causes any delay in your heir's treatment, I'll make sure you pay a heavy price.
The emperor is furious, and for a moment, no one dares to speak. Qin Yue, who has been hiding right behind Song Huaichuan, just nestles perfectly into her arms, clinging to her neck and sobbing uncontrollably. Wang Shang, Wan Ji definitely hates Yue Er, and that's why she keeps refusing to show herself. Please, Your Majesty, don't blame Wan Ji. It's all because of Yue Er's bad luck that she can't stay with you for long. Even if she dies, she wants to die in Your Majesty's arms. Seeing Qin Yue looking so pitiful, Song Huaichuan's eyes flickered with a hint of pain. He pulled Qin Yue close and affectionately rubbed her nose.
Yeah, don't say such nonsense. I won't allow you to die. The divine doctor said Suwon was born with a special gift. Her heart can heal all illnesses. I'll dig up the earth if I have to and find her to cure you.
Qing Yue, eyes red, leaned against Song Huaichuan's chest, blinking innocently and looking at him with silent affection. I couldn't help but laugh foolishly. The so-called born to serve was just a fabricated lie to help him ascend the throne. He wasn't unaware of this, but in his desperation, he recklessly tried to take what was closest to my heart. I alone knew how ruthless Qing Yue was beneath her harmless appearance. She poisoned my unborn child, schemed against me, and even had Song Huaichuan beat me from the palace. But that wasn't enough. He chased me to the border trying to kill me. Yet in my husband's eyes, the man who stands above all, it's me who is the cruel, venomous woman. My father wiped the blood from his face and sneered. 3 years have passed. I wonder if His Majesty has ever felt a moment of regret or a twinge of guilt for Wanwan in the dead of night. Song Huaichuan's face turned deathly pale. He grabbed my father by the hair and yanked the arrow out of his eye. My father couldn't help but scream, but Song Huaichuan didn't show a shred of mercy. What do I have to regret? She was such a cunning, vicious woman. The only reason I didn't kill her was because of the years we spent together. Now that I've forgiven her and allowed her back into the palace, shouldn't she be falling to her knees, thanking me profusely, even offering her own lifeblood to save me, her beloved emperor? But when I look at her, her face twisted in anger, all I feel is a raging hatred. Not long after Song Huaichuan took the throne, both Qin Yue and I found out we were pregnant. Back then I was the empress and she was just a lowly maid by my side. I don't know when exactly she managed to get into the emperor's bed, but she did it all for the child in her womb. I could only choose to quietly accept it all, already disappointed in a love that was nothing but an illusion. All my struggles were just to safely bring my child into this world, but even that humble wish was cruelly crushed by Song Huaichuan himself. 3 years ago, Qin Yue came to my shop to pay respects. In the time it took to serve a cup of tea, he clutched his stomach and collapsed to the ground, a pool of fresh blood spreading beneath him. I was terrified and panicked, helplessly sending someone to fetch the imperial doctor, but it was already too late. When he arrived, he was already unconscious. I stayed by his bedside, barely taking off my clothes, and took care of him for 3 whole days. The first thing he did when he opened his eyes was accuse me of poisoning him and causing his miscarriage. Song Huaichuan flew into a rage and immediately ordered someone to bring a bowl of poison and forced me to drink it. I was in so much pain, writhing on the floor, blood soaking my entire body. My brother Wengsun, who rushed over, couldn't help but tear up. With trembling hands, he pulled me into his arms and confronted Song Huaichuan. How could they treat my brother like that? He was just frustrated and blamed Qin Yue for setting him up, but Song Huaichuan flew into a rage and ordered him to be severely punished to death on the spot. I watched helplessly as my brother was beaten to death right in front of me. At that moment I felt completely hopeless. I grabbed Song Huaichuan's leg, begging him to kill me too, but he just looked at me with disgust and kicked me away.
You killed my child, and you think you can just die to make it right. It won't be that easy. I'm going to make you suffer slowly, to seek vengeance for my beloved consort and our child.
He had people bring a long stick and personally beat my hands and feet badly, then dragged me to the lowest prison in the capital, all because I'm supposed to be the empress. Countless people trampled over the red courtyard's threshold. Those filthy, stinky folks grabbed me and whipped me with a saltwater-soaked whip, fearing I wouldn't hold up. They shoved foul-smelling rags into my mouth. Some shady people bullied me without mercy. That night felt like hell on earth. When my parents finally found me, I was covered in wounds, not a single spot on me untouched. My mom held my lifeless body, crying her heart out. When my dad wasn't looking, she slammed her head against a pillar. My dad held the bodies of me and mom, crying his heart out. He knelt outside the palace gates for 3 whole days trying to get justice for me. But the husband I loved for 15 years was busy comforting his beloved Qingyue and wouldn't even see my dad. By the time my dad brought my body back to the border, it was already rotting. Song Huaichuan said there's no way I could be dead, but after everything I went through, how could I have survived? Watching him grow weaker and crazier, the light in my dad's eyes slowly faded away.
Wan was right all along. You never truly cared about her at all. She said the biggest, most painful regret of her life was falling in love with you when she was young, naive, and completely clueless. Didn't you always say that you wanted to find her?
Well, open your eyes and look closely. Her memorial tablet is right there. Song Huaichuan followed my dad's hand and looked toward the center of the room. When he picked up the tablet engraved with my name, he froze on the spot, a flicker of confusion crossing his face behind his eyes. Qingyue suddenly covered her mouth, pretending to cough. When Song Huaichuan looked back, she was holding the blood-stained handkerchief and collapsed right into his arms. Your Majesty, back then, Sister Wanwan went through a lot because of Yue Er. You promised Yue Er that no matter what she did, you wouldn't blame her, right? She looked so understanding and adorable, making her hard not to feel sorry for. But Song Huaichuan didn't know that the handkerchief stained with blood. He just got ready ahead of time. Even though every word he said was pleading for me, anyone could tell he was really just trying to say I was purposely hiding and refusing to help him. As Song Huaichuan's expression softened, it snapped back to anger, and the look he gave my dad was tinged with hatred.
You're not seriously thinking that making a fake memorial tablet would fool me into believing he's dead, are you? Someone bring a torch. I doubt Su Wan would let her father burn to death and still stay hidden.
Soon guards brought ropes and tied my father up, dousing him with oil. Song Huaichuan took the torch from someone nearby, sneered, and leaned close to my father. I'm warning you. Think carefully.
If you don't hand over Su Wan, you're going to feel what it's like to be burned alive.
I screamed and threw myself at his feet, crying like my life depended on it, begging him to spare my dad for old time's sake. But no matter how hoarse I got from shouting, he didn't even flinch. Desperation and helplessness twisted inside me, almost breaking me. Just as the blazing flames were about to catch my dad's hair, suddenly a pear blossom cat jumped down from the beam and lunged at him. The cat's claws left a long bloody scratch on Song Huaichuan's hand, making him wince in pain. He threw down the torch, grabbed the cat by the neck, ignored its struggles, lifted it into the air, and slammed it hard onto the ground. The cat arched its back in pain, rolling around on the floor. Song Huaichuan squinted, stepped on its body, and pressed down hard. He must have forgotten that this cat was the one we found together in the palace when we were 10. Back then, it was just a tiny kitten on the verge of starving to death, and Song Huaichuan was nothing more than a fallen prince, bullied because his birth mother came from a humble background. That day, after a heavy snowfall, Song Huaichuan and I held hands as we picked him up from the thick snow. During Song Huaichuan's hardest days, it was me and the kitten who kept him going. He once said that we were all his family, and that he would protect us with his life. But now, he wishes he could just kill him. The pear blossom cat's piercing cries echoed through the house, making my dad's eyes go bloodshot. He struggled wildly. After all, he's a martial artist, and for a moment, the guards couldn't hold him down.
Song Huaichuan, how can you be so heartless, not even willing to share Wanwan's cat with me?
My dad collared him, glaring and questioning him. Song Huaichuan looked with contempt, kicked him aside, grabbed a nearby stick, and slammed it onto his back. My dad was hit so hard that he spewed blood from his mouth and collapsed, convulsing violently. Song Huaichuan snorted coldly, then raised the stick again and brought it down on the barely breathing pear blossom cat. I cried out and rushed forward, trying to protect him. But I was just a lost soul. I couldn't even take those deadly blows for her. I could only watch helplessly as she breathed her last. I knelt by her side, breaking down in tears. When I looked up, my eyes were filled with hatred. I cried out in agony, sobbing as I demanded to know why.
Song Huaichuan, what exactly did I ever do to wrong you? You've already ruined my life and now you want to destroy everything around me too?
A cold wind blew outside, making Song Huaichuan shiver all over. He was so nervous he couldn't even hold onto the fire poker. After a moment he turned around, his lips trembling as he spoke toward me.
Wait a second, Wanwan. Is that really you speaking right now?
I stood frozen in place, staring at him in disbelief, and he clearly signaled to me. In an instant he started walking toward me. My heart was pounding like a drum. Song Huaichuan was getting closer and closer. Suddenly, he reached out his hand toward me, his fingertips trembling uncontrollably. Then the music suddenly screamed sharply, and he clutched his chest and collapsed to the ground. Your Highness, my chest hurts so bad, am I going to die? Song Huaichuan quietly pulled his hand back, turned to look at him, and seeing the pain on his face, he couldn't care about anything else. Filled with worry, he scooped him up off the ground.
Silly Yueher, don't talk about dying. Don't worry, even if I have to fight to the death, I'll find Suan and take away what's most precious to her, you.
Qinyue buried her face in his chest, choking back tears as she pleaded, Your Majesty, please don't be angry. If anything happened to Your Majesty because of me, I'd never find peace. Song Huaichuan looked deeply moved and pulled her close, as if he wanted to make her a part of himself. Yueher, I want you to live well.
If anything at all were to happen to you, just what on earth would I do?
Seeing their desperation, my heart ached so much I could barely breathe. I remembered how in those brutal days, he said the same things to me. But now, just a few years later, that love has vanished. Another cold wind blew through. Qingyue huddled closely in Song Huaichuan's arms, shaking and trembling quite uncontrollably. Oh, Your Majesty. The moon can't bear this cold. She won't stay. Song Huaichuan held her, turning to leave. A guard hesitated. What about my father? She didn't look back, ordering coldly, Douse her with water, take her away, and throw her into the mountains.
Let's see how long she can last before she talks about Suan's whereabouts.
Tears blurred my vision. I never thought he could be so heartless. It was the dead of winter and my dad was covered in wounds. There was no way he'd make it through the night. I desperately tried to stop him, begged him to take back his order, but he just passed right through me without a word and walked away. In the end, my dad didn't freeze to death. The guards who were ordered to deal with him saw his scarred body and suddenly their eyes filled with tears. Every twisted scar was a mark left from my dad fighting fiercely to protect the border. They quietly helped my dad put his clothes back on and put their own lives on the line to let him go. When Song Huaichuan heard the news, he flew into a rage and immediately ordered those guards executed. To find me, he even sent his best troops and almost turned the whole small town upside down. After searching desperately for days with no sign of me, my dad suddenly vanished without a trace too. Without timely treatment, Qingyue lay on his sickbed, barely hanging on. Song Huaichuan was frantic, like ants on a hot pan, and in his fury, he punished several commanders one after another. Too bad no matter what tricks he used, he couldn't find me. After all, I'd long turned into a lone skeleton, lying deep underground in complete darkness. Just as Song Huaichuan was getting more and more irritable, the guards he sent to look for my dad came back.
The Emperor Suwan's dad purchased a large amount of food and went out to the remote and wild hills outside the city.
Song Huaichuan's eyes brightened, a mocking smile on his lips.
I knew it. This old man can't bear to see Suan suffer. Quick, send someone to follow her.
He turned, pulling Qingyue close, weeping with joy. Don't worry, Yueher. Everything will be all right.
Once we find that woman Suan, I'll have someone take her heart's blood right away.
Song Huaichuan gently rubbed Qinyue's back and feet, then leaned down to press a light kiss on her forehead. As he stood up, a cold glint flashed in her eyes.
I want to see exactly where she's hiding, making me go through all this trouble without finding her.
I laughed bitterly. This time, she'll be truly disappointed. When Song Huaichuan arrived with his group, my dad was placing the food he bought on my grave. He stood there staring straight ahead, looking around, but no matter how he looked, he couldn't see me anywhere. Old Su Wanren, my dad sat up, wiping blood from his face. He pointed a trembling hand at my grave and smiled bitterly. Song Huaichuan, you really are blind and narrow-minded. It was right in front of you every night, and you still didn't see it. Song Huaichuan kicked him away suspiciously, then walked over to my tombstone. After reading my name clearly, his eyes filled with deep disappointment.
To think you'd go so far as to build a coffin tomb just to mock me. Don't you find that unlucky? Someone smash this crappy tomb for me. I want to see just how much further you can take this little act. Yours.
Wenyan, my dad, panicked and tried to get up to stop him, but Song Huaichuan swung his sword and struck his leg. He stumbled and fell to the ground. Song Huaichuan wasn't done yet. He stepped on his weak and heavily scarred body. So mockingly. Now you're scared?
If you are unable to dig up the corpse, I'll punish you very severely.
My dad's face was slammed hard into the dirt. The hopeless look in his eyes made my heart shake uncontrollably. I wanted to push Song Huaichuan away, but I couldn't even touch the edge of his clothes. All I could do was watch helplessly as those people smashed my tombstone and dug up the earth from my grave bit by bit. Soon a broken, rotting coffin was dragged out and placed in front of Song Huaichuan. He sneered with malice, raised the heavy iron sword high in his hand, and without caring in the slightest whether my poor dad was alive or dead, he swung it down hard on the weathered coffin. The cheap wooden coffin shattered into 1,000 pieces with a loud echoing crash under his brutal strike. The very next second, everyone present gasped in horror and stepped back in shock. Under the shattered remains of the coffin lay a set of grim, terrifying white bones.
Song Huaichuan was momentarily taken aback, his eyes becoming blurry and unfocused. As he stared down at the ancient scattered bones,
But in a cold and calculated move, he quickly regained his composure and let out a mocking sneer at the exhausted old man lying on the ground.
Song Huaichuan, I told you, my Wan died 3 years ago. Why won't you just allow her to have a little bit of peace and quiet? What kind of sin did she commit that you have to dig her up like this?
Song Huaichuan's anger grew even fiercer as he leaned down and glared fiercely into my dad's eyes.
You're really something, trying to trick me with a heap of old bones I can't even recognize. Dream on if you think I'll surrender. Someone, burn those bones for me. I want them destroyed.
Don't touch my bowl. My dad was heartbroken, desperate, clawing at the dirt like he wanted to crawl over and protect me. His fingers were bleeding, but he couldn't move an inch. When they lit the fire, my dad's spirit just broke. He was so frustrated, he kept banging his forehead on the ground, mumbling to himself.
My daughter's dad is completely and utterly useless. He wasn't even able to protect you from harm in the very end. He must have been blind to agree to let you marry that cold-hearted bastard, and even more foolish to risk his life helping him become emperor.
The entire vast mountain range echoes with my dad's heart-wrenching and anguished cries, and even the guards are quietly wiping away their tears. Only Song Huaichuan stays unmoved, watching it all with a cold and completely expressionless face as he lights the fire. The blazing flames slowly began to roast my white bones, burning my heart until it was beyond all recognition. I calmly stared at the fire. Turns out, once your heart dies, it really can't stir up even the smallest ripple. Song Huaichuan watched the bones blacken, then suddenly frowned. He quickly stepped to the furnace, lowered his head, and lit his fingers that hadn't been burned yet. After a moment, he suddenly took a step back, his face full of panic, his whole body trembling, and the color draining from his face bit by bit. Put out the fire, quickly, put out the fire for me. The guards watching didn't understand what was going on, and just scrambled around frantically looking for something to put out the flames, but this was a deserted mountain, and the nearest water was all the way down at the foot of the hill. I knew there was no way to put out the fire in time. The flames were about to turn my whole body into white bones. Song Huaichuan couldn't stand it anymore. He rushed over frantically. Despite the pain, he reached his hand into the fire and pulled out my skeleton. Both his hands were burned by the flames, but he didn't even notice. He just trembled, holding the right hand of the white bones, where only 2 fingers had been replanted. The other 3 were just half gone. Song Huaichuan gently touched the torn pieces of paper, his whole face pale as a ghost. Wan, is that you? My father lifted his blood-covered face and let out a cold, bitter laugh. Song Huaichuan, you really did recognize me after all? He struggled to crawl up to Song Huaichuan, grabbed his collar tightly, and asked fiercely, do you still remember how Wan's fingers got broken like this? In no time, Song Huaichuan was crying like crazy. He knelt beside my dead body, holding me close, sobbing uncontrollably. I looked down at my mangled fingers. Back then, he was being chased, and in a desperate move I pushed him away, but the assassin cut off 3 of my fingers and stabbed me multiple times. When my family showed up, he was covered in blood, holding me, crying his heart out. He said he'd protect me for life, but then he turned around and threw me straight into hell. That night I cried my eyes out, biting down so hard in anger. If I could live my life over again, I'd rather never have killed him, and instead, with my own flesh and blood, saved him. But sadly nothing can be undone. In the end, my true feelings were just wasted. Song Huaichuan stared at my dad in a daze, numb as he kept hitting him. My lips trembled nonstop. It's impossible, Wan can't be dead. I just wanted to punish him, didn't mean to kill him. My dad slapped him hard across the face with one fierce slap. That slap was quite an incredible thing to witness.